Welcome back to All Angles. We continue our discussion with regards to the July unrest. We are joined by Chris Gilmore, who's an independent investment analyst, as well as Fatima Chauhan, who's the Deputy Chairperson of the Human Rights Commission. Thank you both so much for staying with us. Chris, I was busy asking you a question with regards to what happens moving forward. We know that our economy was completely decimated with COVID-19. And then we had the July unrest. KwaZulu-Natal also severely impacted by the floods, and that definitely trickled to the rest of the country. But people are looking at the situation and going, are things ever really going to get better? What do we do moving forward? And does government understand the urgency of sorting out our economy? I mean, I don't even want to get into load shedding because that's not even a discussion that we're having right now. But you're lucky because you're in London. You don't really have that challenge. But what do we do moving forward? Do we understand the impact of the July unrest?
Well, Heidi, as I said right at the outset, if you don't go and find out exactly what happened, if you don't bring the ringleaders, if indeed ringleaders exist, we're all very much in the dark in this. If we don't actually get to the bottom of this, and for goodness sake, after a year, then please, I know things happen slowly in Africa, as they say, but not that slowly. This is nonsensical. Then if we don't get to the bottom of this, then we can hardly treat the underlying conditions. Fatima has mentioned a whole host of possible reasons for this, and I concur exactly with what she said. But I think we need to have a deeper understanding, a deeper analysis of what's really gone on, and government really has to take responsibility for an awful lot of what's happened here. And okay, you say we don't want to talk about load shedding, but again, this is one of the things that you tend not to find in many developing countries. If you go north of South Africa's borders into the heart of Africa, you will find many countries have got an electricity problem. Yes, we know that, but they've managed to live with it. They've worked around the situation. Most people have got generators. In South Africa, there's this kind of mistaken belief that alles sal reg kom, moenie worry nie, 'n boer maak 'n plan. That it isn't happening. For 15 years, you've had rotational power cuts. It manifestly isn't happening. And it's costing of the order at stage 6 of 4 billion rands a day. It's a monumental amount of money, and it can't carry on like this. And I saw earlier, you had one of I can't remember the champ's name now, talking about it. There are many ways you can actually sort this thing out. But again, it displays, it reflects a kind of a mindset that doesn't really take this seriously. And yet, it's one of the most serious things that you could possibly happen to an economy. If you don't have power, then you can't really work properly. It just disrupts everything. So you've got that, you've got the riots, you've had the floods. I think KZN as a province is unfortunately going to pay the heaviest price out of all of this. You're going to see a lot of companies physically relocating because they've had enough. They're hutful. And they are going to relocate to different parts of the country because they don't believe that, you can't do anything about the floods. That's a natural disaster. But, I think they've had more than their fair share of awfulness in the past year.
It worries me that you say KZN is going to suffer the most and businesses are going to relocate, because also our ports are based there. And I don't even want to get into the discussion of Transnet. Fatima, let's quickly bring you in here. I want to speak about the significance of the Human Rights Commission hearings and how you even heard from President Cyril Ramaphosa himself. You heard from the Defence Minister back then as well. And lots of South Africans say that it seems as though government officials were out of touch, especially when they went to testify and explain their version of events. I want you to perhaps speak to us about the significance and importance of, for example, having President Cyril Ramaphosa testify at these hearings and give his version of events, and what this is going to mean long term. What is going to come out of these hearings?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think just to begin with, it's a bit unfair to say that South Africans don't treat this with the seriousness it deserves. I think that we are a very resilient constitutional democracy. And as such, various state failures do get treated with the seriousness that it deserves, which is not to say that sufficient progress has been made. I do think that part of the difficulty was that government, and particularly the law enforcement agencies, were not on top of its game at the time of the unrest and the period before that, just before that. And clearly what the hearings indicated and what government has understood was that there was a huge intelligence failure. That being the case, clearly what has to happen now is that law enforcement agencies will play a catch-up game. But overall, I think that this is very much front and center of what government is attending to. I think we've seen some positive developments as far as the Security Council meeting now more regularly, and there seems to be a lot more focus in the security cluster than we've seen previously. And I think there's a growing understanding that security is quite fundamental to economic growth. So we are looking at some positive signs coming out of government. We want to see more. And as far as the significance of the hearings of the South African Human Rights Commission is concerned, I think they were hugely significant. I think South Africans have really banded together to try and deal with the aftermath of the unrest in an unprecedented way. We've seen some amazing efforts going into those communities. We've seen restorative justice dialogues. We've seen young people, debating issues of the day, pertinent social and economic issues. And in that respect, there's a great deal of hope still in South Africa. And from my perspective, I think we merely have hit a bit of a glitch, but we'll bounce back as we always do.
That's true. We always bounce back. Chris Gilmore, I literally have 30 seconds left with you. Perhaps just tell us if you're worried that this could trickle into more unrest, given the fact that this is not just a July last year issue, but as I mentioned, deeper socioeconomic issues.
The deeper socioeconomic issues are still there. They haven't gone away, and they're not going to go away, not while you've got the economy plodding along at these kind of levels. And as I said before, I think with food inflation being as high as it is, there's an incipient danger that if you forget about all of the other factors that we've mentioned here, political and otherwise, there's an incipient danger that, in fact, you could have a similar situation to this, not just in South Africa, but in many other developing countries. So food inflation is a serious, serious issue. That something has to be done about that in the short term.
Certainly. Okay, thank you both so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. That was Chris Gilmore, who's an independent investment analyst, as well as Fatima Chauhan, who's the Deputy Chairperson of the Human Rights Commission. Thank you both so much for your time.